Hello, everybody. This is Kathleen Burns Kingsbury, and welcome to my special March Live series in honor of Women's History Month. I'm excited today and a little bit sad because it's kind of a mixed day. Today is March 15th, and it would have been my mother's 91st birthday. Yeah, we lost my mom about a little over 10 years ago to Alzheimer's. So I miss her. I miss all the wonderful things she taught me about having a good sense of humor, having a sense of adventure, enjoying the snow, which any of you who follow me know that definitely was passed down to me. My father and her used to, when it would snow, even just a little bit, throw on their cross-country skis and jump out into the front yard and do circles and laugh in the snow. And that's a cool memory of my mom. I think the other memory of my mom that I want to honor today is that she did teach me how to bring humor into education. She was a teacher, and she used to do this Spike Jonze impression. And I'm not sure that any of you are old enough to know who Spike Jonze is, but he was a comedian. And again, my mother was from the traditional generation, and he had this funny song. And she used to stand up after just one glass of wine. She didn't need a lot of wine to do this. Stand up in front of a crowd and do a whole mock entertainment series with Spike Jonze. So I miss you, Mom. Love you, Mom. And today, this LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, wherever you're watching, is dedicated to you. So as I just told you, my mother gave me a lot of qualities that are positive: sense of humor, sense of adventure, desire to educate people. And she also passed down a generational message that I think many of our mothers passed down, which was the idea that it's okay to be successful, but don't get too full of yourself. In fact, when I published my first book, when I would have a big speech, when I would be really excited about a new business thing, my mother would always say, you know what, Kathleen, that's great, but don't get too full of yourself. So that generational message of not getting too full of yourself, I do think has impacted many of us and hurt our careers. Not the long term. I certainly have overcome it. And again, my mother, like most mothers, gave me lots of positives and some things that I had to work through. I think that's just the essence of being a parent. But when it comes to not being full of yourself, think about what that actually means. What does not being full of yourself actually mean? It means not standing in your power. It means not bragging. It means not being bold. It means not embracing all of who you are. And I don't really think that that's what my mother wanted me to walk away with. I think that she was afraid that if I was truly my authentic self, if I was truly as big as I wanted to be, that somehow I would be hurt, I would be let down. And in her generation, I think the belief was, oh, you'll never find a man. But I think back to it, my mom was big, she was bold. And when she wasn't worried about being too full of herself, she was so much fun to be with. And so again, I think that generational message, she was a traditionalist, right? Passing it down to either boomer kid, or I'm a very old Gen Xer, to really kind of enforce that as women, we needed to know our places. Well, we all know that I've dedicated my whole career to helping women speak up, to helping them find their voice, and to not really worry too much about if you are too big of yourself. In fact, I have a good friend who used to joke with me sometimes and say, you're a really big deal. And hearing the counter message was kind of funny. So why am I talking about this today? Why am I talking about this as it relates to negotiating, or as it relates to Women's History Month? Because I truly believe if you were given this message by a parent, by a well-meaning mentor, by someone else in your life, that you have to do what I did. And you have to decide, I'm not going to listen to that message. Some of the other messages I'm going to take with me and move forward, but the idea of not being full of myself is not one of them. Because when I started to do some work on my relationship with money and my relationship with success, one of the major roadblocks I figured out for myself that I needed to overcome was working through the fear of success. In other words, the fear of being too full of myself. And when I was able to say, you know what, I am who I am, I'm not perfect. But what I bring to the table is what I bring to the table. And I believe in being bold and speaking up and negotiating what you're worth. And I have value to provide. That I realized it's not about being boastful. It's not about, being arrogant. It's really just about communicating your value and being able to say, you know what, I deserve X amount of money or this particular fee because I bring high value. And there is a great return on your investment. Now, that's not being too big in yourself. That is actually celebrating your accomplishments, knowing your value, being grounded in your worth. And so today, in honor of my mother, and I have a feeling that she's up there smiling, going, oh, thank goodness you didn't listen to that message, that I'm going to teach you a little bit about self-promotion and self-promotion in a positive way. Because if self-promotion comes from a place of authenticity, if it comes from a place of being grounded, and it comes from a real place of value, in other words, you've done the work, you have gotten the credentials, you have learned the skills, you have done whatever you need to do to be the best you can be in your field at that moment in time in your career, then self-promotion is what allows you to build a business. It's what allows you to get ahead in a corporate environment. It's what allows you to be successful. And when we're successful, what is so wonderful about that is if we are successful and bring our authentic selves, then we are actually doing a service to those folks around us. So being full of ourselves is actually what we need to do in order to bring value to this world. And while this message rings true for people, no matter how they identify in terms of their gender, I do think there is a special place here for women who were raised by traditional mothers and were taught certain things that sometimes can get in the way of our financial success, of our career success, or just our ability to stand in our power. And so what can you do about it? Well, there's a couple of things you can do about it. I know for myself, in order to let go of this message and in order to celebrate everything that my mother brought to me and leave this message behind, I needed to do some coaching work. I needed to understand my mindset around money, my mindset around success. And then I needed to figure out what was mine and what was passed down generationally from her mother to her and then to me. And what did I not want to pass down to the next generation of women that I influenced? So if you haven't done that type of work, I recommend that you take some time to do it. It is very powerful. It is not always fun, but it is very productive. And when you get to the other side, the confidence you will feel is great. So I highly recommend that mindset coaching, that work that I've done myself, that I do with other women. But here are some real concrete and tactical things you can do right now that I think are pretty easy. So what are some of those things? Let me look and see what I want to share with you today. Okay, so here are 3 tactics that I think you can employ pretty quickly. One is make sure that you find somebody who is younger than you, especially a young adult, a young teen, and tell her she rocks. No matter what she's doing, tell her that you appreciate her as an authentic person, that you love when she is big and when she is bold. And to do this, not just one-on-one, but to do this in the presence of others. And the reason I say that is my mother, Ellie was her name. My mother, Ellie, used to brag about me all the time. When I published my first book, I found out she had a trunk full of books that she carried with her in case any of her friends, families, colleagues wanted to spontaneously buy one of the books that her daughter authored. I didn't know that till she was gone. My mother bragged about me a lot, but not when I was there. One on one, she would share a more negative message, but out in the world, she would just celebrate who I was. And so that's why when I say, tell a young woman she rocks, do so not only just one on one, but do so in the company of others, not to embarrass her, but to show her that it is okay in a social environment to admire somebody's greatness, to admire what they bring to the table, and to celebrate them, especially young women and girls. The next thing I would like you to do is to think about surrounding yourself with a support system that celebrates you. So this may be a group of girlfriends. This may be a group of colleagues. It doesn't have to be a big group. It could be your partner and maybe one other person, right? But you want to surround yourself with people who really celebrate who you are. That when you publish a book, give a speech, get a promotion, say no to a deal that you should have said no to, that you have people in your life that don't second guess you, but just celebrate. Yay, you set some limits, or yay, you landed that deal. And I got to tell you, I've had a group of women in my life for over a decade that celebrate the ups and downs, that talk through things, but that always appreciate, even when I get on their nerves, appreciate who I am authentically. And the same thing is what I try to give back to them. So if you can find a group of people, again, it doesn't need to be big. In fact, sometimes I think a group of 4 is much more intimate and much more supportive. And then you're having a very safe space to do this. You may also have a partner who celebrates you. And I'm not saying that they always celebrate you, that they never challenge you, that they never push and say, are you sure? But in general, they know it is okay to be full of yourself, and they celebrate the self of who you are, your warts and all. And if you don't have a group like that, start looking for those types of women in your life, because they do exist, and let go of those women who don't make you feel good. We all know who those women are out there. They're mean girls, and they just, the compliment is secondhanded or something feels a little off. Set a boundary. Think about celebrating yourself, celebrating other people, especially a group of women, and make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to have your back and are going to celebrate your success. And the last thing I would love for you to think about today is to think about, how can I pay it forward? In other words, what are the ways in which, when I learn how to embrace my success, when I learn how to champion young girls and tell them publicly that they are awesome, when I surround myself with a group of supports, girlfriends, male allies that are going to celebrate who I am, how do I then pay it forward? How do I help break the cycle? My mother, Ellie, didn't have a chance to break the cycle. She never got to a place where she could do it for herself, so she couldn't gift it to me. But I know for myself, I learned how to do that from powerful mentors, from coaches, from counselors, from just good friends, and certainly my husband, Brian. And so when I think about paying it forward, I think about the work that I do with women around negotiating, asking for what they're worth, promoting themselves, speaking up in meetings, being able to run the business that they want to run, doing the money mindset coaching that I think really frees people up to let go of these old beliefs around themselves and to build new, healthier ones that not only allow them to be financially successful, but to feel successful as well. So pay it forward means you mentor, you coach, you lift up other women. And it doesn't need to be a lot of women. It could be one. It could be one person out there that you just have a connection with and you go, wow, she's pretty awesome. Not sure she knows she's awesome. So let me make sure she knows. Let me help her be full of herself. So if you are interested in learning more about my services, learning more about the coaching and the courses that I provide, feel free to check out my website at breakingmoneysilence.com. Also, I have a variety of different courses, some of them free on negotiating, you just go to courses.moneysilence.com to check those out. And you can always ping me on whatever social platform you're viewing this live on. Because in honor of my mother and her would-be 91st birthday, I want to say, get out there, brag about yourself, embrace yourself, and be full of yourself. This is Kathleen Burns Kingsbury saying thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next week.